I'ma catch you sleepy, bitch. I will catch you sleeping old Star Fratsu, whatever that whole last name is. You wanna catch that one?
Morgan Babineau reports.
It's been 218 days since Tamika Watley was reported missing. Her family says they don't care how much time passes. They will not stop looking until they get answers.
No other developments, no leads, no one's coming forward, no one's talking. We just absolutely we don't have anything.
On July 20,
She stopped responding. Not gradually, not over time, but completely. Phone calls went unanswered. Messages were never read. Days passed, then weeks. For the people who knew her, this silence did not make sense. A missing person report was filed, and an investigation began. Searches were conducted. Questions were asked. Months passed with no clear answers, and public attention slowly faded. Then, far from where she was last known to be, something was found. What followed did not bring clarity, only confirmation, and more uncertainty. The discovery raised questions about timing, location, and what happened in the space between disappearance and death. This case is not defined by a single moment, but by what remains unexplained. The facts exist. The timeline exists. What is missing is the full story. You are welcome to our channel. If you have been watching our videos and if you are new here, you are also welcome, and do well by hitting the subscribe button and turn on notifications bell. Like and share our video. Thanks. The case of Tamika Watley moved from a missing person report to a confirmed death investigation over an extended period, largely outside national attention. At the time she was reported missing, there was no immediate indication of a crime, and the initial response followed standard procedures for an unexplained disappearance. Months later, the discovery of human remains changed the status of the case but did not resolve its central questions. This distinction is critical. An unresolved disappearance leaves uncertainty about outcome. A delayed confirmation of death resolves only one element: identity. It does not automatically explain how, when, or why the death occurred. In this case, the timeline unfolded slowly with long gaps between major developments, limiting public understanding of the circumstances. The investigative focus centers on 3 points: the disappearance, the discovery of remains, and the unanswered circumstances connecting the two. What is known comes from family statements and law enforcement confirmations. What is missing includes a complete account of her final movements. What has not been explained remains the path from last contact to location of discovery. Tamika Watley was an adult woman and the mother of 6 children. Her daily life involved routine responsibilities associated with parenting, household management, and maintaining contact with family members. Public reporting indicates she had established community ties and was actively involved in her children's lives. There is no indication that she lacked stable housing at the time of her disappearance. Employment details were not extensively reported, but family statements suggested she maintained regular routines. Her role as a parent contributed to the immediate concern when communication stopped, as extended absences were inconsistent with her responsibilities. She maintained close relationships with immediate and extended family members. These relationships were active, not distant, and regular communication was the norm. Family members were accustomed to frequent updates and consistent contact. There were no publicly reported disputes or sudden changes in personal relationships immediately preceding her disappearance. Known close contacts did not report plans for travel or relocation. Communication patterns before June 2024 indicated reliability rather than unpredictability. Her behavioral baseline was characterized by consistency. She did not have a history of disappearing without explanation. There were no reports of prior unexplained absences or prolonged lapses in contact. This consistency is a key reason her disappearance was recognized quickly as unusual. Family members noted that failing to check in for extended periods did not align with her established habits. The abrupt change in behavior marked a departure from her normal routine and prompted concern. The last confirmed contact with Tamika Watley occurred in early June 2024. Communication was reportedly conducted by phone. Family members stated that the interaction did not indicate distress or plans to disengage from contact. The tone of the conversation was described as normal. There were no statements suggesting an imminent departure or intention to stop communicating. No future plans involving extended absence were mentioned. Publicly available information about her final movements is limited. No confirmed sightings were reported after the last phone contact. Details regarding transportation access were not fully disclosed. It remains unclear whether she was traveling on foot, by personal vehicle, or with assistance from others. Phone activity after the last confirmed contact was not publicly detailed. Investigators did not release a comprehensive digital activity timeline, leaving gaps in understanding her movements. Red flags became apparent only after contact ceased. Missed obligations accumulated. Personal belongings were left behind. Routine activities were interrupted without explanation. The sudden silence contrasted with her established behavior and escalated concern among family members. After days passed without contact, family members initiated a missing person report. The time gap between last contact and the report reflected attempts to reach her independently before involving authorities. Law enforcement accepted the report and opened an investigation. At this stage, there was no confirmed evidence of foul play. Initial investigative steps included interviews with family members and known contacts. Search areas were identified based on available information. Authorities reviewed what data they could access, though details about phone or digital records were not publicly released. Public alerts were limited. The case did not receive immediate widespread attention beyond local coverage. Family members organized independent search efforts and made public appeals for information. They expressed concern about the pace of progress and limited updates. Communication gaps between investigators and family members contributed to frustration, though cooperation continued. Law enforcement conducted searches in areas connected to her last known location and routine routes. These efforts were constrained by limited leads and the absence of confirmed sightings. Authorities acknowledged the challenges of searching without specific direction. Community members provided tips, though many could not be verified. Distinguishing rumors from actionable information required resources that were not always available. Some leads were followed, others could not be substantiated. As months passed without significant developments, public updates decreased. The investigation remained open, but progress slowed. Attention shifted elsewhere, and the case entered a period of stagnation. In June 2025, human remains were discovered in a wooded area near U.S. Highway 90 West in Vinton, Louisiana. The location was accessible but not heavily trafficked, which may explain why remains were not discovered earlier. The geographic distance from her last known contact raised questions about how she arrived there. Authorities secured the scene and limited public information while identification was pending. No immediate conclusions were released regarding cause or manner of death. The remains were sent to the LSU Forensic Anthropology and Computer Enhancement Services Lab. The identification process required extended analysis due to decomposition and environmental exposure. Confirmation took several months. In September 2025, forensic testing confirmed the remains belonged to Tamika Watley. Multiple agencies were involved in the confirmation process. Authorities publicly announced the identification after verification was complete. Family members were notified prior to the public announcement. Relatives later acknowledged the confirmation publicly, stating that identification answered one question but left others unresolved. With identification confirmed, the case transitioned from a missing person investigation to a death investigation. Procedural focus shifted to determining circumstances of death. Despite this change, many aspects of the timeline remain unexplained. Following the forensic identification of the remains as belonging to Tamika Watley, the case formally transitioned into a death investigation. Authorities confirmed the identification publicly but did not announce a definitive cause or manner of death at that time. Law enforcement stated that the condition of the remains limited the conclusions that could be drawn immediately. As of the most recent public updates, No final determination regarding cause of death has been released. The absence of a publicly confirmed conclusion does not indicate inactivity, but rather reflects evidentiary limitations. Officials acknowledged that further analysis was ongoing. However, they also noted that certain questions may remain unresolved due to the passage of time and environmental exposure. The investigation, therefore, focuses not only on forensic findings, but also on reconstructing events leading up to her death. The condition of the remains played a central role in shaping the investigation. The remains were discovered approximately 1 year after the reported disappearance, in an outdoor environment subject to weather, wildlife activity, and natural decomposition processes. Environmental factors such as moisture, temperature fluctuations, and vegetation growth affected preservation. These factors can obscure indicators that might otherwise assist in determining cause of death, including trauma markers or toxicological evidence. The time elapsed between disappearance and discovery further complicated analysis. Investigators rely on both physical evidence and contextual information, but delays reduce the availability and reliability of certain forensic indicators. As a result, the investigation must integrate incomplete physical evidence with circumstantial data. Authorities have stated that they have not publicly ruled the death a homicide. At the same time, they have not definitively ruled out foul play. This distinction is important. The absence of a public homicide determination does not equate to a conclusion of natural or accidental death. Law enforcement has indicated that the case remains open. This status reflects unresolved elements in the timeline rather than confirmation of criminal involvement. Investigators continue to evaluate information related to her disappearance, movements, and final location. The case remains open because the available evidence does not conclusively answer how she arrived at the location where the remains were found or what occurred during the intervening period. Several core questions remain unresolved. First, how did she end up at the location where the remains were discovered? The area was not directly connected to her last confirmed location. There has been no public explanation of whether she traveled there independently or with assistance. Second, who last saw her alive? Beyond the final phone contact, there are no publicly confirmed in-person sightings. This gap limits the ability to narrow the timeline. Third, whether anyone else was involved remains undetermined. Authorities have not identified suspects, nor have they publicly stated that third-party involvement has been excluded. Fourth, why were the remains not discovered earlier? The location was accessible, though not heavily trafficked. Whether prior searches included that area has not been fully clarified. Finally, there is a significant gap between the date of disappearance and the date of discovery. What occurred during that interval remains unknown. These unanswered questions prevent the case from reaching resolution. Family members have made public statements following confirmation of identity. Their comments focused on the need for answers rather than conclusions. They emphasize that identification alone does not explain the circumstances of death. Relatives have requested that anyone with information come forward, regardless of how minor it may seem. They have expressed frustration with uncertainty, particularly regarding the lack of clarity surrounding the final months of her life. Despite limited updates, the family has continued to cooperate with investigators. They have participated in interviews, provided background information, and supported ongoing efforts to gather tips. Advocacy efforts have centered on keeping the case visible and encouraging accountability. Media coverage of the case evolved over time. Initial reporting focused on the disappearance and missing person status. Articles emphasized the search and family concern rather than investigative details. Following discovery and identification, coverage increased briefly but remained largely factual and concise. Most reports summarize the timeline without examining investigative challenges in depth. National coverage was limited. The case did not receive sustained attention beyond regional outlets. As a result, many aspects of the investigation remained outside public discussion. Information gaps in media reporting mirror gaps in publicly available case details. Without confirmed conclusions, reporting relied on official statements and family comments, leaving broader context unexplored. This case illustrates challenges common in missing person investigations. When disappearances lack immediate indicators of foul play, Searches often proceed with limited urgency and resources. Over time, leads diminish. Delayed discoveries introduce forensic limitations. Environmental exposure reduces evidentiary clarity, affecting the ability to determine cause and manner of death conclusively. Time also affects accountability. As months pass, witness memories fade, digital records are lost, and physical traces degrade. These factors complicate efforts to reconstruct events accurately. Similar cases remain unresolved across jurisdictions. Many involve delayed discoveries, incomplete timelines, and open investigations without definitive outcomes. This case fits within that broader pattern. As of the most recent public updates, the investigation remains active. Law enforcement has stated that they continue to review information and evaluate tips. Authorities have requested that anyone with information related to the disappearance or death contact investigators. No arrests have been announced. No suspects have been publicly identified. Investigators have not disclosed specific investigative steps currently underway, citing the ongoing nature of the case. What remains unknown includes the precise circumstances of death, the full timeline of events, and whether additional evidence will emerge. This case cannot be considered closed solely because identification has been confirmed. Identification answers one question but leaves others unresolved. There is a difference between confirmation and resolution. Confirmation establishes identity. Resolution explains circumstances. In this case, the latter has not been achieved. Unanswered questions continue to matter because they define the integrity of the investigation. Without clarity regarding how the disappearance led to death, the case remains incomplete. The absence of definitive answers underscores the importance of continued attention, not for speculation, but for accountability and factual understanding.